perhaps some of us have been going a little stir-crazy during lockdown. Others may have been finding themselves being more creative.
So, Maggie Foster has become something of a star on the internet after posting videos of herself doing lip-sync impersonations of celebrities, political figures. So, you want to see what that looks like? We'll show you.
I never turn on my staff, and you should never turn on your staff. And I make it clear to every member of the Labour Party and every staff member of the Labour Party, that is how I will lead our party and our movement.
We will be paying them the average...
Has this been thought through?
Of course it's been thought through.
Where are the figures?
The figures are about 250,000 policemen.
250,000 policemen?
And women.
So you're getting more than 10,000. Where did 250,000 come from?
I think you said that, not me.
No, I can assure you said that figure because I wrote it down.
We want to encourage people to take more and even unlimited amounts of outdoor exercise.
I like walking.
You can sit in the sun in your local park, you can drive to other destinations. If possible, do so by car, or even better, by walking or bicycle.
I do enjoy, if I get the time, walking.
You can even play sports, only with members of your own household.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed.
You can relate to it, can't you? You can see it's pretty funny. Maggie joins us now. Maggie Foster, good morning to you. How did all this come about? Who was your first one?
Yeah, I mean, how it came about, basically, I'm a full-time actress and I got furloughed because I have a full-time job. And I had been doing these for years. You know, I started 2015 on an app called Dubsmash. And then, so I got furloughed. And I thought, you know, my ex-boyfriend actually told me about TikTok. And he said, download it, you'll be great at it. So I downloaded it and I started doing lip syncs. I did my first TikTok, I think, was actually a Showbiz one. It was of a funny Cher Lloyd video, I think it was. But in terms of politicians, I think the first politician I did was Boris and Theresa. But yeah, it's been crazy. Everyone seems to sort of like them, which is weird.
How do you go? So talk us through the mechanics of how you do it, Maggie, because obviously the timing is crucial to it looking kind of authentic, and then you have your expressions and whatever that you add onto it. But how do you get the timing so precise?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how I do it, I try not to, I source the videos, obviously, and then I sort of close my eyes and listen. And, you know, you can hear in-breaths of, let's say, Priti Patel, or, you know, why is she tripping over her words? You know, maybe she likes to drink, you know, and then you get the bottles out. And she actually worked for Diageo, hence the changing of the bottles. They're all Diageo brands. So all of that sort of stuff, I sort of look at their, like, past and, you know, get a bit creative in that sense.
OK, so there's a lot of research that you put into this, because, I mean, you wouldn't necessarily... no disrespect, you wouldn't think, you wouldn't be mindful of how much you thought you'd have to put into it. It's not just simple impressions. I do wonder what kind of research you may have done when you mercilessly did this to us. We'll play it, then we'll talk to you.
Some home hairdressing has happened. There is evidence that you've done the very same thing.
You know,
yes?
I couldn't take it anymore.
We're going to see it now?
I couldn't take it. I actually cut the whole of all my hair. And much to many of my friends, many of my makeup friends and hairdressing friends, actually, who've just said, what on earth are you doing? But there's the evidence. I couldn't take it.
I'm not sure I'm liking looking at that, I'll be honest with you. I mean, is that... I'm not sure how much we want to see that.
It's just hair in a sink, Charlie. That's all it is. But it's been done. I think I did OK. It's neat. Look, it's neat. There are no chunks. There are no chunks out of it, I think. Yeah, no, it's...
It's not a bad... It's actually not a bad job. Far be it from me to judge these things. Matt, what do you say? Let's bring you into the equation.
Have I done all right? Are you going to tell about the big gap at the back, Charlie?
That is
very... Well, I haven't seen that before, Maggie. That is very clever. Can I just say, very clever. I can't actually... Do you know, I can't... What is weird is I can't remember that conversation.
That's not
Genuinely
good.
can't remember that conversation.
I'll just say, Meggie, no one here is surprised that Charlie doesn't remember that conversation, but I remember the conversation. So when you approached that, thank you put so much effort into that, because I think you were only told about it yesterday. How long did it take? What kind of were you thinking about and how you'd approach it?
Yeah, so I mean, it really started with obviously thinking, right, it's obviously about how we've got to get something. So I actually asked my mother. I was like, Mum, do you have any wigs? And then she had some 60s awful wigs, which obviously worked. And obviously I didn't want to cut my hair. So I just used those. But in terms of how long it took me, I was actually stopping and starting because I was doing other things during the day. But it probably took me about 3.5 hours, that one. But honestly, I tell you, it was so much fun to film. I loved this one. I really, really did.
Oh, you know, and I also think, I was just thinking about how you can use this, because obviously it's creative, obviously, and entertaining on the internet. But, you know, when leaving dues, wedding speeches, you could be hired now to do things like that, couldn't you? This is potentially, you could monetize this. You could make a business out of this.
Yeah, I'm free for work, guys. You know, anyone wants to take me.
And how, Meggie, you know, I'm just curious, you know, you do a lot of politicians. So how do you make sure it's still fun as opposed to starting to get as if you're making sort of political statements out of it and making points? I mean, because you have the ability to do that, don't you? I'm thinking back to things like Spitting Image and those things that, you know, are poking fun, but, you know, the politics has a bearing on a lot of things right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I'm actually not that political at all, and I think some people think I've got a doctorate in it or something. But, you know, there's a massive history in Britain of, you know, satire, political satire, and, let's say, comic, you know, pictures. And I guess what I'm just trying to do is be like the visual comic book, you know. So, you know, satire is always relevant, isn't it? And I think quite a lot of people, like maybe my generation, maybe even younger, aren't really made politically involved that much. I think it's always been seen to be a bit for the older generations. And bringing like Priti Patel, for example, you know, I like a drink or 12. As, you know, a 26-year-old. So, you know, bringing that sort of like young like vibe, it gets people engaged. I'm not trying to make a point. I'm just trying to make people laugh.
Well, yeah, it's very good. And Meggie, thank you very much. And pass on our thanks as well to your mum for her contribution to your efforts as well, for her wig collection.
I'll let her know.
Good.
Good luck, Meggie. Thanks. That was funny. I hadn't seen that.
I hadn't seen it either. Funny. Very funny.